Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today, I am so excited for this, is Patty Thompson. And Patty is a dear friend of mine. We have been friends for many, many years. I don't even remember how many. And she is a massage therapist and a spinal flow therapist. But she was also 40 years ago, and we're going to talk about this, but 40 years ago, she was sent home from the Mayo Clinic basically to die. She had 3 cancers and they had nothing else that they could do for her. And 40 years later, she is still here to share with us her story. So welcome to the show, Patty.
Well, thank you, Melissa.
I am so excited to finally have you on. We have been back and forth about this for several months. So thank you for finally making the time for this.
Sure. Well, I had to work through a few things. That 40-year mark last June
was a big deal.
Yeah. The reality of that, it's like, I don't know how I got this old. It was a surprise. So I had to work through a few things on that.
You know, and people are grateful when they make it to 5 years, and they're grateful when they make it to 10 years. So to make it to 40 years, that's I'm sure there was a lot of emotion to work through with all of that.
Well, there was a lot of emotion. And the thing about cancer recurring is cancer has recurred 2 other times for me. I've had cancer 3 times, clinically diagnosed cancer. And it is emotional when it comes back. And I mean, luckily, the last 2 times I had cancer, I knew I had it before the doctors did. When I went in and asked for some specific testing, they found it and they said, well, we can do chemo radiation. I said, you know what? That didn't work in the past. I'm going to do it my way, but I need you to monitor me. And both times, now I did have some medical procedures done. The 3rd time with uterine cancer, I decided to go ahead and get a hysterectomy. But the non-Hodgkins lymphoma was still there. So I ended up knocking that out in about 12 weeks with a very strict regimen. And
here you are.
It's finding those combinations of things that work for you.
Right. Okay.
And employing them and getting really strict about them during those times when you need to.
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to, 40 years ago, and you were very young in the prime of your life, and, and boom, this happened. So share with us a little bit about, when were you diagnosed, kind of a little bit of what was going on in your life back then?
Well, I was 23 years old. I was finishing up my undergrad, had been accepted to med school, was about to get married, and then all that changed. The man I was going to marry, that 3 weeks before our wedding, that changed. I was devastated. I was working ER at Lincoln General Hospital, and I collapsed one day, and I knew I hadn't been feeling good, but you work ER, you're kind of an adrenaline junkie, you just push through things. And they started doing some testing and found I had all this cancer going on, and I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkins lymphoma and cervical cancer and uterine cancer. And this is like 3 months after my devastating news about my marriage. And I fell apart, and I could not believe this was happening. luckily, I had been doing research with Mayo Clinic, Mount Sinai, Johns Hopkins, and Lincoln General. We were writing the trauma protocol for advanced life support and the golden hour, which is what you do in the first hour with a traumatic patient to not only give them life, but to give them a quality of life after a traumatic accident. So I was well versed in research and well versed in the medical community. And, I thought, okay, we're going to beat this. And I went to Mayo. They were doing cutting edge. I was very fortunate. I was in on a study with what we termed at the time pinpoint radiation. Back then, they were using radiation across the whole body, which I would be dead from that by now if that were the case. But it was what they termed pinpoint, more of a laser radiation like they use now.
I think they call it like targeted
Target
radiation now. Yeah.
They have, lots of.
Where depending on where you go is what name they call it.
Yeah. And, which was great because that saved me and it saved a lot of the things in my body. I mean, after all this, I had 3 children. So, they did a lot of things for me, but unfortunately the cancer spread to my brain and it was not just a tumor. It was like someone threw sand in my brain.
Wow.
And there was nothing they could do for it. And they said, we're done. You have a couple months to live. And
how long were you in the hospital?
6 months.
6 months. Wow. And it was basically spreading during that time they were doing all of these treatments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 6 months. the last 2 months, I actually had been on a feeding tube. And when I came home, I was down to 92 pounds. I'm 5'10".
Oh my goodness.
I weigh 140 pounds now and I'm not overweight. So, it was very difficult being sent home.
So you were like 24 years old, 23, 24 years old at this time, and basically told that you're going to die, get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you came home, like, did you wallow? Did you get your affairs in order? Or did you like, hey, I don't want to die yet. Or all of the above?
Well, I tried to die. I did code when I was at Mayo the night before I left, but my grandfather visited me in my dreams and said, no, honey, it's not your time. You got to figure it out.
Aww.
And I was like, but I don't want to. He says, do it anyway. So I got home. It was very difficult. I was very weak. I couldn't keep down food. The smell of the water, all I could smell was chlorine. A friend of mine came because my roommate had moved out of the apartment, or I had the main floor of an old house that was mine, and had moved out. So a friend came over to clean, and her cleaning products. I was in the bedroom, and this was a big house. I mean, I had like 3,000 square feet of my own on this level. It was a big old mansion. Wow. And she was cleaning the bathroom and I was in the bedroom, which was, is a house built at the turn of the last century. So there was only one bathroom. And the smell of the products just made my body retch. And I said, this is killing me. And so she opened them and she says, well, I don't know how to clean if I don't use these products. And that's what started me down that road of, well, grandma always used vinegar and water. Try it. So she started cleaning with vinegar and water. That didn't make me sick. I got water from some friends who had a farm and had well water, and they brought me bottles of their well water to drink. But I still couldn't eat anything. So that's when I went, okay, well, what am I going to do? How do you feed somebody who can't eat? I no longer
You don't get to have a feeding tube at home.
What am I going to do? So I asked my friend to go to the store and get me some juice. Well, okay, why can I drink this juice and keep it down and not this one? It's the first time I read a label. Oh, this one is not actually juice.
Now, remember, this was back in the 80s when there was no talk about labeling. There was no talk about
No,
good things for you, bad things for you. It was just eat whatever.
it was just, well, and we didn't have the variety of things
True.
in our grocery stores. So, as things progress, I started drinking. I knew I had to drink water or I'd die. I knew that I had to get some form of nutrition in me. I couldn't keep pills or anything like that down. I was always in a lot of pain. Um, so I started drinking what I could. I had some friends who had a little farm and, they were starting to, we're not going to use the pesticides and stuff. And I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, did they even have organic produce back then?
Oh no,
I didn't
no,
think so.
there was no, nothing was labeled, but I had friends who were kind of, into more natural things. They had a small farm that I actually helped them fix the house when I was in high school. We would get together on the weekends and fix up the house. But they started a garden and they would do juice bars at the state and county fairs. And they said, we can help you learn how to juice things. And I'm like, what? And they brought me an old Champion juicer. And I'm like, you mean I juice a carrot? Are you kidding me? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay. Because I had learned things. I had worked in the garden with my grandfather, and he comes from a long line of healers. So he was very well versed in natural remedies.
Nice.
I wish he were alive at that time, because that would have been very helpful.
You needed to figure it out yourself.
But I needed to figure it out myself. So that's how I started. I started juicing because I could literally not eat solid food.
Wow.
And it was probably about over a year before I could actually keep down solid food that I didn't put through a baby grinder.
So you were eating just liquid food and baby food for a year?
Oh, at least a year. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But that's where my friends and their knowledge of being able to juice fruits and vegetables. I didn't know you could juice a vegetable. To me, at that time, juicing was the orange,
Right.
or lemon,
Apple.
or
Yeah.
lime. I didn't understand it, but I learned, and I started juicing, and that brought my health back. Was having that nutrition in my body.
And how long did it take for you to kind of get your health back and gain some weight and be, I guess, certified cancer free?
They didn't do that back then.
Okay.
They didn't have the testing then that they have now.
Gotcha.
I remember it was in 1983, I think, that Lincoln General got the first CAT scan in
Wow.
the state of Nebraska.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was really high tech. That was the best we had. So testing wasn't as well there. As far as how I felt, it took about 2 years before I felt that I was cancer-free and healthy. And the blood tests started looking real good for the non-Hodgkins lymphoma after about a year.
Okay.
It took about a year for the testing that they had at the time to.
So you were continuing to be monitored during this whole process?
As much as I could, realize that my health insurance canceled me while I was in Mayo Clinic.
Lovely.
And because I had cancer, until Obamacare, I was not able to get health insurance. that was just not available. Pre-existing conditions. Remember that when you vote, people.
So your two recurrences, you also did not have insurance.
No.
Okay. Now, did that affect your decision to not be treated, or did you
Oh,
decide you
no.
weren't going to be treated anyway?
No, I ended up choosing to have a hysterectomy, and I just
Oh,
paid
that's
for
true. Yeah.
I paid for that, and I've paid for my testing.
Okay.
Even though for all those years I didn't have health insurance. Um, in fact, now I still pay for most of my blood work that I order because health insurance doesn't deem it necessary. So every year at least now you can order your own health insurance. I used to have to beg my dentist to order my blood work. But you can call and order and just go in and have your blood tested and run the panels that you want, and you pay for them. So I spend usually about $1,200 a year on blood work,
Okay.
so that I know the things that I watch. I know what they are, but your blood work doesn't tell you everything.
Right.
But I always like to know where I'm at on certain things. So that's how I manage that. But
Okay.
no, if there was something that well, it's like the hysterectomy. I mean, that was not cheap. As I recall, it was about $47,000 between the
Oh my
doctor
gosh.
and the hospital. But I
Wow.
did pay for that because I thought, you know what? I'm 45 now. At the time, I was 45. I don't need this organ anymore. So I don't need to deal with that part of the cancer.
Yeah.
It was still in situ. It had not spread beyond its boundaries. And I'm like, okay, I will do that. But I do use doctors to monitor, and some of them don't like it, but
They want you to follow the protocol.
well, they want you to follow the protocol. And when I explain to them my history, I just say, I would like to try this and let's see how this works. And I know it's not going to be an immediate thing. Neither is chemo or radiation or any of the things you want to do for me. So if you would please monitor me, there may be a point when I change my mind, but right now I'm not going to.
So I
And
wanted
so
to. All right, go ahead. You finish your thought.
I think it's important that people take charge of their own health. Having someone else make decisions for you doesn't personally invest you in that healing process. And I think it's very important to be invested in your own healing process.
I don't think so. So take us back a little bit. So, I mean, I guess a lot of people would not, like, they wouldn't wait 2 years. I mean, you said it was 2 years before, like, of doing all of the things on your own. Like, and I'm sure you had down days of, oh my gosh, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Maybe I should go and do something else. Like, how did you, I guess, maintain your sanity and maintain your, like, I'm gonna do this for however long that it takes?
I was pissed off.
Okay.
I was angry.
What were you angry about?
I was angry that the medical community that I so wanted to be a part of and loved so much had so easily discarded me.
So you're
And
gonna
said
prove
it
them
wasn't.
wrong.
Yeah. And so I was angry, but I wasn't ready to die. It's like, okay, so if they're not willing to fight for me, I am. I have to do it myself. And I told you I wanted to give up in the beginning.
Mhm.
And we all and that, there are days.
We all have them.
We all have those days where it's like, really, can I just like remove myself for a while and not deal with any of this stuff? But that's not how life works.
Right. I know I love when people say, "Oh, you're so strong," and "How are you so strong?" And it's like, well, I don't have any other choice. Like the other choice
Yeah,
is to give up, you know? So
exactly.
you just have to you do it because there's no other alternative.
Well, the alternative is not something I'm
Right.
I'm worth gonna let happen. Um, but the other thing is that it's been a lifelong journey of looking at different therapies. After about, I was able to stand and walk after about 3 or 4 months of doing this. I yes, I crawled to the bathroom for
Oh my gosh. Wow.
several months because I couldn't stand up for very long. I was too weak. But that's what, thinking of my grandfather and all his natural remedies, I didn't know anybody who knew all the things that he did. And a friend of mine was putting, one of the gals I worked with at the hospital was putting together one of the first hospice centers in the state of Nebraska. I realize this is shortly after the Karen and Quinlan case where they were allowed to let her die. Hospice centers were a new thing.
Okay.
We weren't allowed that prior to that time. And she had met with a Chinese doctor and his wife in Omaha that she was just looking for some natural remedies that might be helpful in a hospice center. And so I went to see him and his wife. And he's the one who said, to keep with the fruits and vegetables. He gave me some Chinese herbs, had me start doing herbal enemas. And then later, when I couldn't afford the herbs anymore, he says, "Oh, well, I'll teach you how to sterilize your coffee so you can use coffee in your enema." I'm like, okay. Um, which was actually a pain for my pain. With all the surgeries and procedures and stuff, I was in a lot of pain.
Gotcha.
And that is how I managed my pain. Um, his wife gave me my first massage and pointed her crooked little finger at me and told me to get one every week for the rest of my life so I knew what was happening in my body. And I have done that.
Wow.
um, but so that was kind of my first dipping my pinky toe into more natural remedies.
And this again was the days before the internet, so it wasn't like you could just go
Oh
online
no,
and search for
those were the
things.
days of microfiche.
Yeah.
There
Yes. Yes. For those
was
who
no
don't know what
internet.
microfiche is, look it up. It was a crazy time.
We were really happy if we had microfiche on something. Most of the time, it was just paper.
Right. Or the encyclopedias and yeah,
Exactly.
going to the library.
Yeah. So and so research was quite different. She's also told me to find a book on yoga, and I'm like, what the heck is yoga?
That
Um,
wasn't a
I
thing back then.
I literally had to have the library order a book from New York City to be sent to Nebraska because there wasn't one in Nebraska. um, so it was finding those things and just following the course and staying curious and listening to things and things that resonated with me. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to check that out and see what that looks like. And the really interesting thing is had it been cataloged, it wasn't at either a university or state libraries. Max Gerson actually wrote um, a book on healing. I think it was in the 1940s. And Charlotte Gerson kept that alive. And there are still Gerson clinics in Mexico, and there's one in Europe. They have a home site in California. A lot the second time I went through cancer, I found the Gerson therapy book and read that. And I'm like, I'm already doing a lot of these things. I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I find this book? And now there's several people who do a version of the Gerson therapy, which is a lot of juicing. Okay. It's using fruits and vegetables, and there's other things to it, and coffee enemas and all these things, which I managed to all put together. But there's like Chris Beat Cancer is basically another version of the Gerson therapy.
Yeah, Chris Work, he's got amazing information.
He does. And it's great to find it there. And I tell people, it's like, don't do it the difficult way that I did. I didn't have this information then. Right. But with all the information out there, it makes it so easy for people now. They don't have to just figure it out. And
don't reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
Right.
But when I had cancer that first time, I had no idea about this stuff. And it was in 1984, for heaven's sakes. That people nowadays, with all the internet and how quickly we can receive information, it's like when I'd ordered the book from Yoga from New York, I think it took like 3 months before I got it.
Gosh.
I mean, it's not like, we didn't have Amazon. They didn't have next day delivery or same day delivery.
Nope, yeah, interlibrary loans that came when they came by Pony Express.
Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't that information. But what I find really great is I didn't do anything groundbreaking.
Well, you did at the time because it wasn't talked about.
I did at the time because it wasn't talked about. But now, I am proof that all this works. Because when I got cancer the second time, that was in 1993, it all came back. I went back to the very strict protocol that I had been on in the beginning. I just did the juicing. I got rid of any of the animal products. I mean, it was 2 years before my body would even allow me to ingest animal products. It would make my body retch. I mean, literally physically retch. And so I didn't eat animal products. And I love ice cream and cheese. And I can do without most of the meat, but but my body physically could not digest it. Okay. So it took that time. So, and now I have my 10% rule. Maintaining is very important. When cancer came back for me, it was really at times when I emotionally was not in a good place. It was at the end of a relationship each time.
I think we undervalue the detriments of stress on our bodies many times, and what it does to our immune system, what it does to everything in our bodies. It's just, we live in a constant state of stress and we just do that. But it is probably like more detrimental than most of the other risk factors of cancer.
Exactly. It truly is. Louise Hay wrote a book, Heal Your Body, Heal Your Mind, or Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body. I forget.
You can heal your life. I think I have it. Oh, yeah. Right there. You can heal your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she makes up great links between the emotional and physical ailments. And I wish she wasn't right. But she was.
I say, like, this is a PG program, but I say F you to Louise Hay very often when I read what the emotional piece of it is. Like, no, I don't want to fix that.
Exactly. I
Right.
mean, that's the hard part about it. But I have 3 times that cancer came back full blown, and all those 3 times I was at the end of a relationship, a very important relationship. And
Wasn't like divorce and like a, intimate death are kind of the two biggest
well, yeah, yeah,
stress whatevers. Yeah.
yeah. Um, let alone everything else that
Right.
was going on. But during those times of great stress, we don't take care of ourselves as well. And that's, when I finally realized, oh, it's back. I can tell it's back. I would go and get some testing, and yes, it's back. So I would start being strict on my protocol, um, because what else are you going to do?
Right.
So I would get real strict with my protocol, and I would make my health my focus. And since then, since the last time in 2004, I catch myself. I allow myself to go 10% out of the things that I put in my body. I allow 10% a week. So that 10% for me, which isn't, and I do everything organic. I mean, I've cleaned my house with vinegar and water since I had cancer the first time. It works for everything. You
And
don't.
it's a lot cheaper than those expensive cleaning products.
Yeah, well, and I also don't want to poison myself. I
Right.
have no toxic.
But even the like all natural cleaning products, that don't have as many chemicals in them they're very expensive. And vinegar and water does the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly. If I want it to smell like something, I'll put a drop of essential oil in there, you know,
Right.
and that's just how that works. Um, but it's really maintaining a clean environment. I don't allow toxic things into my house. Um, I even after for the things that I have to get dry cleaned, I hang them on my back porch, or if it's crummy weather, I hang them in the garage for a few days so that they can air out, so that I don't have any of that chemical stuff in my house.
Oh, good. I've been looking for like a non-toxic dry cleaner and I can't find one. So there's like I have like a stack of stuff that needs to be dry cleaned and I don't want to take it anywhere. So I can just leave
Well,
it in my
it's
garage for a couple days.
yeah. Well, yeah, I go have it cleaned, and then I have a cotton tent that I put over it so there's no dust or anything that gets over it, and I just hang it up, put the little tent thing over it, let it air out. It's just a cotton tent, is just to keep dust from settling on it.
Mhm.
And I let it air out for a few days until
Okay.
there's no smell. You just do your best to keep things clean, because the world is not going to take care of that for you. Other people don't think about those things. Um, but I have my 10% rule with the way I eat. I eat mostly fruits and vegetables. But 10% of my diet can be animal protein and sugar. And so, like, if I'm going to a birthday party, just so you know, it is not safe to stand between me and the cake. Uh,
Me
I love
neither.
cake. I love pastries. I love those things. But I don't eat that every day because I know it causes issues. I don't eat meat every day. I keep those things to 10%. If I'm going to a party or going to a friend's house, I don't want to be that person that shows up with my portobello and says, "Would you grill this for me at the barbecue?" Um, I just will eat very clean beforehand, enjoy the party. I don't ever stuff myself. Enjoy the party, enjoy what's there, what I can eat. And, and then I eat really clean the week afterwards,
All is good.
and all is good. I can enjoy those things. Um, but that's how I put myself first, and I don't that keeps me from feeling like I'm deprived.
Right.
You
You can
know?
still live a full life
Yeah.
and take care of yourself.
Oh,
It doesn't
yeah.
have to be one or the other.
No, it's not exclusive, and that's what I try and get across to people when they say, "Oh, I could never do that." And I'm like, "Why not? Aren't you worth it? Isn't your life valuable enough to take care of your body in the way it needs to be taken care of?" You know, I am a spiritual woman, and I feel like our body is our temple.
Mhm.
Heavenly Father gave us one temple to house our soul, and we only get one. How are you taking care of that temple? I mean, if you think about walking, we walk into these churches and places of worship that they're clean and pristine and shiny and beautiful inside. Well, how would you feel if there were McDonald's wrappers shoved in the corners and dust all over the place and cobwebs and trash and, rodents running around? How impressed would you be by that temple?
Right. But what are you doing to your body?
Your body is your temple.
Mhm.
So you need the exercise. You need to move your body. You need to hydrate your body. You need to care for your body. And exercise is very important. You have to do it.
Mhm.
Your body was made for motion. So I love what you're doing with the exercise to help people get on that. And people stay on it.
Yes.
You've got to continue. This is your
There
life.
isn't an end point with this. You just got to keep going.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what got to me when I realized it's been 40 years since I was told to go home and die. Now it's been, we're
Almost 41.
almost 41, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Um, so it's using those things, and with the availability of information now, it's using that information, taking control of yourself, making yourself valuable to make those decisions that are right for you. I'm not telling anybody not to go to the doctor. I use both and I'm long over being angry at the profession. They are what they are. You
Right.
use them for what works for you, and you do what works for you, and do your research, and what resonates with you. Um, that's what you do, and you get people to support you in that effort,
Because
because
it's
it's
in
hard
the
to
end,
do.
it's your body and it's your decision,
Yeah,
whatever you choose.
yeah. So I've been rambling an awful lot.
No,
What?
no, it's been a great conversation. And, you've really brought up everything that you wanted to make sure that you shared. Do your research, take responsibility for your health, and get the people around you to support you. And if the people around you aren't supporting you, find other people.
Exactly. Find the people who will support you, um, because we deserve that.
Right. And I mean, everybody's got to make their own choices. And, for some people, the choice is chemo, is radiation, is surgery. For other people, it is not. And, I always tell people, and I even think I did an episode about it, like the best advice to give someone with cancer is don't give advice. Like let them make their own choices and support them in whatever choice that is.
Exactly. And
And I just, with this show, like I want to let people know that there are options, that you don't have to do this or you don't have to do this. Like, hey, this person went and did all these things and they're 20 years out and cancer free. This person went out and did these things and you're 40 years cancer free. And then there's people who go out and do all the right things and the cancer comes back, and you just have to do what feels right in your soul and what is best for you in your life and your family.
what is best for you and your family? And I think the one other thing that I really want to get across with people is, please, if you're diagnosed or if you have a friend who's diagnosed with cancer and they say, oh, and they go on the internet and they find all these different products to try. I've seen it happen so many times. They order all these different things and they start taking them all at once. And well, of course, they're taking all sorts of stuff that they really don't know what it is. And then it makes them sick or they don't feel good. And they're like, well, that didn't work. I guess I'm going to have to do this. So when you do try natural therapies, which natural therapies don't have to be exclusive of medical therapies, you can do the combinations that seem right to you. Work that out with your doctor. If your doctor is not working that out with you, you need a different doctor. Mm-hmm. You need a doctor who will support you. But do one thing at a time. Do it for a couple of weeks. See how your body responds, for the better or for the worse. Then you can add other supplements or other programs or other things. But adding one thing at a time lets you know if that's helping you or if that's, just going to make you feel like crap.
Right. But if you do all the things at once and you feel like crap, you have no idea it's a lot easier to add one thing at a time than to try and eliminate one thing at a time.
Exactly. It's just like anybody who's gone through trying to figure out what they're allergic to in food. I mean, that is just grueling. Yeah. So don't get yourself on that mess. But the thing is, you can live for a long time with cancer. I mean, it's been 40 years, which really blew me away because when I first had cancer was the big C. Nobody talked about it. If you had it, you were going to die. Nobody wanted to be around you. It was very fearful. On top of it, we had the AIDS scare at that time. So things have come a long way. And I'm really glad that there are people like you that talk about these things and give people a forum to find out about it and hear about it and find hope and where they can, how to find the information. And it's so easy. And do your research because not everything on the internet is valuable.
Or true.
Exactly. But, it's taking our health into our own hands. And whatever route you go, surrounding yourself with people who are going to support you and lift you. And as far as I'm concerned, nobody has any right to judge anybody else on this planet. So we have to do what's right for us. And everyone is unique and beautiful in their own way. And preserving that is paramount.
Mm. And that is the perfect place to put a bow on this. So I love all of that. Thank you so much, Patty, for your time, for sharing your story. It is so inspirational. And there's a couple links that I kind of want to put in the show notes, some things that we've talked about, a way for people to be able to contact you if they want more information about what you did, what you're doing. So
that's fine.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.